Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jenny. This week we are just going to do another, I guess, week in the two allotments. I'm going to just take you with me on the things that I'm doing. So today I'm just about to go to plot 15. So it's just gone 6 o'clock in the evening and I'm going to go down there to do a bit of watering and to check on some of the things that I planted last week. But I thought I'd just come on here first and say hi to start with, and just to give you a bit of a heads up about me and the watering. Now, I have been known to forget before now. And so because one of the things that I really wanted to do on this channel was to be able to help people to garden in their own homes, on their own allotments, but making it as easy as possible. And the way that I choose to water is one of the ways that I do that. So even in hot weather, I do not like water every day, water 3 times a week. I just don't do that. I water, if I'm going to water at all, which I don't do on weeks that it rains, I only water once. I water once a week for anything that's outside and actually planted in the ground. And what I do is I basically just do a really long water. So instead of like just sort of getting the watering can and doing like a really quick sort of whoosh, 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 whoosh and like it's done, I don't. I spend time on each plant and water probably for anywhere between like a count of 8 to 10, but quite a lot of water in one go, so that the water runs really deep into the ground and so that my plants actually focus on pushing their roots further down. So I end up with really strong plants, and also the other side of that, it means that I don't have to keep going over and watering all the time. Now, at the plot in the park, I actually water that even less, but that is because it isn't open to the beating sun all of the time, because it's got really well, it's really well shaded, isn't it, by trees. The ground there actually just doesn't dry out very much. So I probably water, if it's a dry spell, I'm going to water somewhere between 10 days to 2 weeks, in all honesty. And I just do the same thing. I make sure that when I do water, it's actually for a really decent amount of time so that the water can actually penetrate. For me, the other thing that I found that really helps with that is having a really good compost mulch on top. I don't know if you guys will have noticed this maybe in the place where you grow, but where the ground is hard and open to the sun, when you pour water on it, it just sort of runs away and it doesn't really go anywhere near the plant. If it happens today, actually, I'll record it and show you what I mean and pop a clip in. But where you use compost as a mulch on top of your soil, it helps it to retain water. It also helps to keep it cooler, so it doesn't suffer from sort of like the beating down of the sun on top of it on a regular basis. So it's a really, really good way of both protecting the soil and stopping soil erosion, but it's also really helpful if you don't have a huge amount of time but you still like to grow some stuff. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to go and do some watering. I'm going to bring you with me. I've got a couple of other jobs to do down there in the next hour or so. So let's go and have a look. Here's some kohlrabi that I planted out a couple of weeks ago, and I'm just showing you how long I water for. I think this is probably just like about a count of 8. It does mean that it takes longer to actually water like the whole of the allotment, but I find that I just don't have to do it as often, which for me is a win because I don't have a huge amount of time to be sort of like at the allotment every single day. The plants in this bed are all just getting too tall to fit underneath the hoops and the netting. So I'm going to take the netting off so that they can keep growing a bit taller. Okay, so I've pulled the netting off the kale behind me and I've just given it a really quick spray. I'm using this thing called grazers, which is meant to be organic and friendly and doesn't kill wildlife. It just makes the leaves taste really horrible, so that things that would either suck sap or eat leaves no longer like it. I've not actually tried it before, but I'm hoping that it'll be okay because really the kale's just got too big. It's too big and I can't really do much about that because I do not have larger hoops, at least not this year, and it's a bit late in the season, so I'm not really going to bother. But that's okay. It's all growing really well. I'll just give you a quick look now. yeah, so there it is. It's actually looking pretty lovely. It's really lush and green. So yeah, I'm actually really happy with it. This next to it here is the broccoli rabe. I'm pretty sure I've said before that I just struggled to pick it on time. And actually, I guess even if I had, nobody in my family is particularly keen on it anyway. It's got quite a bitter taste, so I'm probably not going to grow it again. Well, no, I'm not going to grow it again next year. Although, yeah, give me a shout out if you want to try it. I can definitely save you some seed because I will have loads if I just leave it to go to flower. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it. It's quite pretty, so we'll just let it blossom, but I'm probably not going to pick any more. I'm struggling to find a way to eat it. I mean, it's actually, to be honest, it's okay with a bit of garlic and olive oil, like just sort of sauteed like you would do with asparagus. But yeah, not the greatest taste in the world. So if you know some good broccoli rabe recipes, please give me a shout. The pak choi is doing really well. I'm going to harvest these two in the front because they have started to flower. You can eat them after they've flowered. They don't taste any different. I just prefer them smaller. And I'm hoping that when I take them out that the ones behind will start to grow on a bit. They probably, well, they are too close together really, but as well as that they're a bit shaded, so hopefully this will help. So I've been squash hunting today and I'm really pleased because I found this baby here. And there's quite a few others. So they're all just starting to get a slightly darker orange colour. They should turn quite red, but I'm actually pretty hopeful that this sort of experiment of trying squash quite late actually might have worked out all right. So these are the beetroot, well, the small ones are the beetroot that I put in the other day. Yeah, they've actually settled really well. So they're looking actually really good. They seem to have bedded down really well, so that's brilliant. And if you have a look just along the edge there, you'll see the start of the mustards coming out. It's always me, isn't it? I just like to use every single bit of space and not waste any. But yeah, they're looking pretty good. So we've got a couple of things to do today. The first thing is I'm actually going to plant out some stuff in the same bed with the leeks. I'm just going to put in some radishes because we've got about 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks left until our expected first frost date, which is just enough time to get some radishes in. So I'm going to plant some of those. I'm also going to pop in some more mustards in the bed with the leeks as well today. A couple that I've already grown on, I'm just going to plant out and pop them in there. And I'm doing it all in the same bed because I actually want to change the width of that double bed and make it a bit smaller. So I'll use the other side, like later on. I will shorten it slightly so that I can actually reach the middle of the bed without standing on it, which I can't do at the minute. So that will be really helpful, I think, next year, because I have found it a bit of a struggle at times, particularly when I'm trying to weed it. Because any weeds that grow in the middle, I'm having to like push past plants and stuff to get to them in order to pull them out or find some place to stand in order to do it. It's become a bit frustrating, so I'm going to make it a bit shorter later on. But since there's already things in that side of the bed already, I'm just going to fill it up, and yeah, hopefully we will get some radishes in about 4 weeks time, and we should have mustards through till at least the end of October because they can manage a bit of a frost. So I've also sown some matador spinach as well, and I'm just kind of putting it in now. I'm not expecting it to like grow loads and have loads to harvest over the winter, but I'm putting it in now so that it gets a bit of a head start, and then I'm going to cover it with some fleece when it's colder. And then hopefully in the spring it'll have like a bit of a burst of energy, but because it'll already have really deep roots, it should grow quite quickly. And spinach is one of those plants that's a bit of a pain in the neck to grow, because when it is too warm, it bolts incredibly quickly. So when I tried to sow it, I think probably in March, it bolted before I'd after about 2 weeks, literally it sprouted with a flower. So I'm hoping that it'll work a little bit better this time. I have sowed it quite thickly, and that's just because this seed is a little bit on the old side. So I'm hoping that if I sow it quite thickly, I won't have quite the same problem with germination. So I'll just give it a water now. As you can see, I haven't actually planted the mustards in the same bed as the leeks, and that's just because I did a whole row of radishes and a row of spinach. So instead, I'm just putting these little tiny plugs in with the oca, which should be fine. The oca isn't due to come out until sort of like the end of November. It's not really grown a huge amount since I put it in. I mean, it's grown a bit, but not very much. But the mustards have pretty shallow roots, so it shouldn't really, they shouldn't affect each other, and hopefully it'll mean that this bed will be a bit fuller, which for me is also quite helpful, because obviously the more things you put in a space, the less earth there is available for weeds. This particular bed does get quite a few grasses in it. I mean, it's nothing that you can't manage relatively easily, but it can be a bit of a pain in the neck. So hopefully this will help it to sort of keep the weeds out for a little bit longer. A couple of weeks ago, I put some comfrey in this bucket with some water, left it covered, and honestly, it smells gross. So I don't have a sieve, which would be much more useful for this. But what I'm going to do is pour it into the other bucket. I'm going to try and stop all of the comfrey from falling in, which should be okay because there's a stone in the bottom. And the comfrey that's been sat there for ages, I'm actually just going to pop into the compost bin. But this should make a really good fertiliser for my plants. So yeah, I mean, obviously I could have done it at any point throughout the summer months, but I didn't get around to it. So, you know, I'm doing it now, and hopefully we will get a last flush of the things that I'm putting in over winter. So in particular, I want it for the leafy greens that I've put in at plot 15. So yeah, so like I think I put in like some land cress, some winter purslane, a couple of other bits and pieces. So I'm hoping to give them a bit of a boost before it gets really cold, so that they can actually really flourish. So yeah, let's have a go. Honestly, this stuff smells so bad. It mostly just smells of like rotting green, but it's not nice. Whew, really smells terrible. So I will, oh gross, take out the stone, and I'm going to put the rest of this really manky grossness in the compost. I've also got a bottle to put it in so I can use it a bit more effectively in the garden, because I won't need like loads of it per watering can. I'll just need a little amount. So I'm going to pop it in here. It won't all fit, but that's okay. I'll probably just cover it back over and leave it to the side until next time. So let's see if we can do this without covering myself completely in gross comfrey juice. So there we go, gross brown juice to make stuff grow. So that's all from me at the allotments today. Thank you so much for joining me. Can really tell like the change in the air that's coming. It's getting a bit more overcast, starting to get some leaves on the ground. Autumn is really fast approaching. And while there are definitely still things to harvest, I think I'm getting quite excited about just being able to get on with some of the jobs that I've wanted to do, knowing that the weeds will be a little easier to manage for a couple of months, and I'll have some space to actually just dig stuff up, move things around. So I'm really looking forward to that. I really love autumn. It's one of my favourite times of year. And the really nice thing about this plot at the park is that it is in fact surrounded by trees. So I am gonna probably build a bin specifically just to put fallen leaves in, so that I can make some leaf mould for the garden for next year. So I'm going to try and do quite a bit of it, I think, probably both here and at the other allotment, because I think it'll be massively useful. And it can be quite hard to make enough compost to put, like, you know, 5 to 8 centimetres on top of every bed every single year. So greens are really easy to come by, but browns can be really hard. But for me, because leaf mould's easy to come by, I was like, well, actually, that's probably a better investment of my time in just collecting leaves. And it's something that I can definitely get some help from the kids with too. So I'm looking forward to doing that over the next couple of weeks as the leaves continue to fall. So hope you all have an amazing week. If you've enjoyed the video, please do subscribe and press the notification bell so that you know when I upload new videos. Have a fabulous week, and I'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye bye.